What about the right attorney? Right? What about finding the right person? I'll tell you, there's a lot of attorneys out there. A ton of attorneys. In fact, here's the US population. So that's quite a few. How many lawyers do you think are out there? Is it more than 2 million? Raise of hands. Okay, wow. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it between 1 and 2 million? 1, 2, 3, and then under 1 million? Abstain. Okay, very good. So nationally, 1.3 million. That equates to 1 for every 254 people in the United States. So think about this. How many attorneys do you know, or would you know, if it wasn't because of BNI, right? So we have different kinds of attorneys. You have a criminal side, and then a civil side, and then you have a litigator side and a transactional side, okay? Our criminal side, they're always litigator, litigator, litigator. Transactional is like writing contracts, reviewing contracts, and things like that. And I guess you can have an FBI agent, doing something like that, but it's primarily litigation all day. Civil, you can have transactional litigation as well. Mr. Jeff Wenninger, our personal injury attorney in the group, he is a litigator, and he will nod his head that he loves it. Then there's transactional attorneys. These are like business law attorneys, or contractual law attorneys. The ones that are reviewing vendor contracts, for example. And really, there's this quadrant, and they're either on one side or the other, on one side or the other, okay? So if you know an attorney, they're not all going to be working in an area where you may actually need them, all right? I'm making a point about this that I'll get to in just a little bit, but how many attorneys out there will say that they can do an estate plan? I will tell you, there are lots of dabblers out there. So these are people that also can do an estate plan, not necessarily their focus, right? And those types of attorneys, they're not going to have this collaboration working with other people, okay? That's why it's important to have a good working relationship with your attorney. This is holistic. It needs to be holistic. Why? Well, with estate planning, we're talking about your life. This is your life plan. It's dynamic. And there's other things at play, and if it's not all coordinated, you'll have a broken plan, right? Hey. Something else to ask yourself, and there's one up here that I didn't list, but I'll tell you, there's no estate planning probate attorneys that work on contingency. They don't do that. So it's either flat fee or they're charging by the hour. And one benefit to the flat fee is you know what you're paying. When it's hourly, there are budget controls, but your situation may be so unique, you might have more nuance to it that will rack up the time, okay? And then, will that attorney have this continuum of care? Will they have this process to make sure your planning is up to date? And even if you could check all those boxes, ask yourself, can I even talk to this person? Is this somebody I communicate well with, right? You're gonna have an engagement with an attorney. This is going to be a relationship. You wanna make it a good one, right? You wanna make it a good one. So this is what a comprehensive estate plan includes, right? Your trust only works if it's funded. Cassie's trust won't work if her house is not in her trust, right? A pour over will, I've explained what that is. Quick little recap. If you have a will that disinherits everybody in favor of your trust, anything that you didn't fund into the trust will pour over into your trust from the probate of your will. Then healthcare power of attorney. These power of attorneys are so necessary and so often neglected. It's almost a shame. I have run into clients that they bank at Chase, and at Chase Bank in particular, unless they've changed their policy, they're unwilling to transfer an account from an individual account into a trust account without making you close one account and opening up a new one. So that means new checking account, new debit cards, new auto pays, the whole nine. What they say they can do, though, is they can have the trust named as a beneficiary on death. Well, that sounds great until you don't die, but you can't access your account because you had a stroke, right? That's what a power of attorney is needed. A power of attorney is absolutely needed, because then what can that agent under power of attorney do? They can take all that money out of that bank and go put it into another bank under your trust and marshal all your assets together. Personal property memorandums, these are things like, I really would like my Teal KitchenAid stand mixer to go to my next door neighbor, Betty Sue. Most trusts will provide for that. Little ticky-tack things where you don't need to do a whole trust amendment. You just write what is the thing, lightly describe it, who's getting it, and that will be effective so long as that language is present in the trust. Right? Memorial instructions and et cetera. These things all should be part of your comprehensive plan. So I was driving to the Family Cabin. Family Cabin is in Twain Harte, which is in Tuolumne County, Sonora, Highway 49, so driving through Jackson and Angels Camp. And I saw a sign that said, will and trust, $500. Call this number. It was clearly hand-drawn. But okay, here's somebody offering a will and a trust for $500. Well, I had somebody come into my office who DIY'd a trust. They DIY'd it, I'll take that back. They used what's called a legal document preparer. Likely what that person advertising the will and trust for $500 does. This document preparer prepared this trust. And then the woman whose trust it was died. Well, okay, now it's time to get going, get in action here. Who's in charge? Well, the trust says who's in charge, the successor trustee. She had all 8 pages, all numbered 1 through 8. And somewhere on page 6, it said, see section J for successor trustees. Section J was missing. It was missing. It wasn't even there. Okay? So we have to go to court and get a trustee appointed. The one size fits all does not work at all. And you'll find that these trusts are often missing property. And then those aren't the people that are following up. If you're getting a form off the internet, there's no follow-up with that. Our process is comprehensive. We meet, we figure out what it is that you need, you sign, we go over all the documents again, and then we monitor your plan for life. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. You need to be proactive. You have to be proactive. Here's some very common excuses. I'm gonna just say it's a lot of excuses. So estate planning is a luxury, cost time. I'll tell you, your family's gonna pay for what you didn't pay for. So what's it gonna be? Pay now or pay later? And I'll tell you, the cost is exponential if you wait, or if you go the cheap route. We've talked about intestacy. These are the rules that are in place because you failed to pick somebody. Oh, let's go back. Children treated equally. Well, okay, that's great, but what if you have one child that married up and the other children are doing okay, but they're not making millions of dollars, and then that child doesn't need help. But your children will be treated the same under the law. You need to appoint somebody to say, okay, this person, they do well, but I don't know what to do. That's your attorney. I don't know how to favor 2 of my 3 children without showing I hated my other child, right? How do I do that? Well, we help you with that. You're not going to know all the answers. This is the best time to plan. Any of these happen, births, deaths, a lot of times changed relationships with a decision maker. If you have a falling out with a friend who was your trustee, it's probably not the best choice to be your trustee. Well, that likely needs to get updated, right? This is when to update. So if you have a trust, it could get stale pretty fast. Ask yourself when the last time you talked to your estate planning attorney was. When was the last time? If you have a trust and it was longer than 2 years, you likely need to have at least a conversation, because you may have acquired new property, your business may look different, so that property is income. That might need to get into your trust. Maybe somebody passed. You should get it reviewed. Okay. So in summary, parts of estate plan, will and trust, they work together. You're going to have powers of attorney. We set up provisions for children in the trust, but also guardianship nominations as well. You will gotta be active and have a proactive attorney that's gonna help you make the right decisions.